are live. I got
We're
my good brother
live.
Shaman. I got my brother Shaman here joining us for this Owl Eyes on DeFi, trying to give you the wisest view of what's going on in this what do you call it, quiet crypto market nowadays. So we just kind of do these once a week. Grab one of the coaches from Knowit Owlz and just kind of see what their views are and how they're looking at things. So Shaman, grateful to have you on board today, man. How you doing?
Pretty good. Watching the markets, as always. I think things might get exciting again soon. I'm kind of hoping. I feel like it's been a pretty low volatility, boring past, I don't know, dude, how many months has it been now that Bitcoin's just been completely sideways for? It seems like it's been like a year, man.
Yeah, some people are saying we've been in a bull market since the beginning of the year, but if you just kind of zoom out, it doesn't.
Yeah, it don't look like a bull market to me, dog.
Yeah. So, man, what are you looking at, man? What are you expecting? Feel free to share your screen, show some charts.
Sure.
Yeah, I want to get your market views, and I guess after that we can talk about anything that's exciting you in the world of DeFi right now.
Yeah. So I think kind of on larger time frames, I feel like we're just kind of in this grindy, low volatility period right now on Bitcoin. I think you can kind of see this on the weekly. We're right at the 200-day moving average, right under it. I'm really watching to see. Yeah, right. Yeah, if we confirm it as resistance and we can't get above this 28K section right here and kind of get above up towards 29, pushing into 30 again, I'm not too optimistic on where crypto is headed. But right now, I'm cautiously optimistic. I've been kind of scaling into some positions on some altcoins and things, just kind of watching. But I'm very short on stocks right now. I started shorting SPY at 450. It doubled down at 440. Took a bunch of profits yesterday and this morning, though. Scooped up some calls because I think we might get a bounce to 430, 436. But man, when you look at SPY on some of these higher time frames, I'm targeting 380. I think that there's a pretty good possibility that SPX can retrace 3,800, SPY at 380. That'd be the 200-day moving average on the weekly. But when you look at these monthly and quarterly charts, dude, this is a scary chart right here. This looks like a shitcoin chart to me, dude. This looks like I'm about to drop 60% kind of chart. But with stocks, they've got the Fed that has all the power in the world to prop things up. So maybe we don't end up with a big crash like a lot of people are expecting. But I've still got some long term. I say long term, but basically next summer, June puts on SPY. But I took a shit ton of profits the past couple of days just to lock stuff in and see if I can reshort a little bit higher. But this high time frame chart on SPY has me a little spooked. And I think if it starts to really the economics, the macro scene right now is pretty sketchy with bonds just absolutely tanking. And you've got all these financial institutions that have been using bonds as their collateral for leverage positions that they've been taking out over the past since 2008.
Yeah, I was gonna say decade.
Yeah, over the past decade, they've been building up. I think I saw the figure the other day is 700 billion in leverage positions right now that are backed with bonds. So what do you do when your collateral is tanking and you have 700 billion in leverage positions? Even if your position, yeah, right, exactly. Even if your position itself is performing okay, if your collateral is tanking, you could still get margin called. It's a tough spot to be in. So I think one of the ways out of it would be to pump the market. Even if bonds are dying, if you pump the market and you take profits to recollateralize with, then or you're meeting your margins because the market's pumping and your positions are staying up, then that's fine. But I just have a hard time seeing the Fed and seeing some of these institutions being able to pull this off. But we'll see. I got a buddy from college that's a big finance guy me and him have been trading since college, always bounce ideas off each other. And we've kind of come to this conclusion of we're at an inflection point where we're either about to pop the bubble, the basically .com bubble 2.0, tech bubble that we've been in for the past 10 years since 2008. And we're either about to pop or we're forming the left shoulder of what's going to be the mother of all bubbles as hyperinflation just causes assets to pump. Personally, I'm more on the former side. I think that we've got some downside risks ahead headed into the end of the year, especially with like all the uncertainty from like economic standpoint and with bonds just like tanking like they have been. But I'd be more than happy to experience the mother of all bubbles too. So just kind of see how it plays out. What do you think? What are your thoughts, Ben, on the market lately?
I agree, man. I closed. I know I told you that I was in I was short in Bitcoin and ETH. I actually exited out those positions in profit because it's just really uncertain. You know, I have my theories, but a lot of this stuff is like things that haven't happened. So like the three main things that I'm looking at is you have, it looks like regulation is starting to tilt in our favor. Well, so four things. Regulation looks like it's starting to tilt in our favor. And I'm hoping we can get Gary Gensler out of there. And I feel like that'll be bullish. Two, we have the Bitcoin halving around 200 days or so from here. And while I do think that it's not going to be as much of a catalyst for a bull market, given that, you know, the supply is just decreasing and decreasing, like it's not like it's going from 50 to 25, and that's just like a big shock, and it's not a lot of demand. So, but the narrative of it could still make it pump, because all of the Bitcoin that's being mined is just being bought up by like PayPal and, you know, corporations and stuff like that. So you got regulation, you have the halving, and then you have the election coming up. So it's just like, when I think about that, obviously, you know, they're going to try to make things look as good as possible so that they can get reelected. So I feel like
election years are always like that.
I feel like I'll be able to make a better decision in regards to like where I think the market's going to be going short term after that, after the election, depending on what happens and who gets elected. Well, I guess that is what happens. And then the fourth thing is the Blackrock ETF. You know, they have what, a 99% success ratio in getting ETFs approved. So it's just like, those are four big things. Like, depending on which way they all go, can have like a positive or negative effect on the market. And how I trade is like, if I don't have like an alpha and I don't have like a strong conviction on where I think the market's going, I'll just like look at the market and be like, okay, I'm bullish on crypto long term. So it's kind of like that time in the market versus trying to time the market thing. So I'm just like long, not leveraged long, but I'm long ETH. I'm actually not holding any Bitcoin. And then I'm holding a good amount of Pendle Finance and Radix and a little bit of Radiant and a lot of cash.
Yeah.
So
I'm pretty much in a similar spot. Like, I think that fundamentals crypto wise look great, man. And like I've had this theory for a long time that like honestly, ever since I first started looking into Ethereum back in like 2016, 2015 days, like it made sense to me that like this could become this like global financial settlement layer at some point. And there was like all this, like the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance stuff back then, like really hyped me up, even though nothing came of it. But there were all these banks and institutions and people that were supposedly looking into it to research, you know, like launching things on Ethereum. Like I said, nothing really came from the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance stuff way back then, but like I could see the vision back then. And I've always believed that there will come a time where we're going to see flows go from traditional finance, banks, and like traditional markets into DeFi and into crypto in general. And I think that we're getting close to that point. Like, I know the decoupling meme, like people are always like saying it's just a meme and like always talk shit about it. But like, I do believe firmly that it will happen. And I think it'll happen in the next couple of years. I think we're really close to it. Like the stage is set. We're seeing trust in the government and trust in financial institutions is at all-time lows. Like, people are like, the bond markets are collapsing. Nobody has any faith in our traditional institutions anymore. We see it every day. Like, people just are pissed off and they're done with it. And there's only one way out of it, and it's crypto. And I firmly believe that the paradigm shift is coming, and I think it'll happen in the next couple of years. And if you're not long, you're wrong. Like, over the next couple of years, like,
and that's what she said. Come on now.
Yeah. Exactly. So like I'm pretty optimistic on Bitcoin. I do think it'll be a bumpy ride if like traditional markets do start to collapse a bit. I think that it'll be a very volatile ride for a while there, but I think that crypto and DeFi are going to come out as the clear winners if and when this kind of paradigm shift starts to happen. I know people always gave a lot of shit to Suzu for his super cycle thesis, but like unironically, I think we will see a super cycle style like rally when people start to come into DeFi and crypto for real and abandon legacy systems like for real. Yeah. So that's kind of my full take. I think in the short term, it's going to be a bumpy ride, but I'm here for it. I'm excited to see what happens. So,
yep, you just throw on the off-road tires and go for it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like on short-term time frames though, like for SPY, like I know I was dooming a little bit at the beginning, but I did actually, like I said, I closed a lot of my shorts out. So we got real close to that 200-day moving average, and that was my first target for taking profits. So I entered a couple long positions this morning too. I'm kind of targeting 433 to 436 range. I think we'll probably retest this MA 100 around 436. And I'm looking to take up some more shorts around there, close out my longs that I entered today, and kind of readjust and, take another look at the market when we get there. Of course, I could be wrong. We could just turn around and tank from here. And I do still have some of my longer term short positions open in case that does happen. But right now, I'm primarily long volatility. Just not through being long VIX, but long volatility like through strangles and straddles on SPY. So I've got like puts and calls at the moment. The calls are more short-term play. The puts are longer term. We'll just kind of see what happens from here. So as long as SPY makes a big move up or down, I'll be chilling in profit. So we'll see.
So when you say decoupling, are you talking about Bitcoin becoming or crypto becoming uncorrelated from the stock market?
Yeah, I think it'll be, and like maybe even to the point where like it's not even uncorrelated, but it's like inversely correlated. Like I think there could come a time where like traditional markets are collapsing and the flight to safety is genuinely Bitcoin and Ethereum and crypto, like DeFi projects, because where are you gonna put your money when faith in the government is collapsing, bonds are collapsing, the dollar is hyperinflating and becoming worth, your purchasing power is collapsing? Where do you put your money at? What do you do? There's very few options out there. You could try to go the real estate route, but like real estate's been on fire lately and has been pumping nonstop since 2008. So I'm not sure if that's a bet that I personally would be willing to take, especially if banks are collapsing and you have all the like rates at all-time highs. Like I'm not willing to I wouldn't park my money in real estate with an 8% rate at the moment. Like that's fucked too. So in my opinion, it's Bitcoin. It's Ethereum, where I would try to park my money to avoid having my purchasing power deflate away. And I think a lot of people will start to come to that conclusion. I mean, we've seen this narrative a bunch of times, right? This has been a narrative since the early days. People have always said like Bitcoin will be the inflation hedge. And it really has. When you look at it on a long enough time frame, inflation has skyrocketed and so has the price of Bitcoin. Like we were at, $100 back in 2015 and it ran to 69K. And like inflation has done nothing but skyrocket in those same periods of time. So like, sure, you could argue that like, well, we crashed when inflation really started to spike in the last couple of years. But like, if you had parked your money in Bitcoin in 2015, you did not get impacted by inflation at all. And you made a shit ton of money.
True.
And I think that'll happen again. I wouldn't be surprised, if we're kind of topping out here soon. I'm thinking another test of like 30K is in the cards. And then depending on, if SPY turns south for real and we start getting a 2018 style crash like we had back here. Let's see, you can see it better in the daily. Because like winter 2018, which we crashed in crypto too a bit. This crash here, we went from SPY was at 270 and it went all the way down to 217. That crash kind of started in October and went into year end. I think there was a lot of government shutdown fears back then. There were some inflation fears, things like that. And then we rallied real hard up until we had the COVID crash. And then we went to, crazy all-time highs from there. So like personally, I think we're looking at something similar to this style of collapse headed into the end of the year. Just like lots of sell-offs, de-risking as the economic uncertainty continues to rise, inflation continues to rise, and bonds continue to get fucked. But at the same time, the Fed could step in at any point, which they did do in 2018. We saw the Fed step in near the end there and start QE, the infinite QE that started to kick us off. And then in COVID, same thing. They cut rates straight to zero as the COVID crash was happening. Because I remember buying calls thinking that Jerome was going to try to save the market, probably right in here, I think, around 233. I bought some calls, 270 strike calls that expired 2 weeks out. It was a joke of we were $100 at it, thinking whatever, fuck it, I'm gonna take a position here against my shorts just for fun. And then we mooned up to that, a couple days later, we skyrocketed up to 260, and I booked a 50x on those calls. I think we'll see similar activity of the Fed. They're only going to let the market go so low, especially pre-election year. Historically, election years are always great performing years for the stock market. And I see no reason why next year would be any different. If anything, I think next year will be it's either going to be real bloodbath or it's going to be a great outperformer because people want to get reelected. Nobody wants to get fucked because the market was tanking. So we'll see, where things go from here. There's lots of uncertainty in the air, but I'm thinking 2018 is kind of I see lots of people looking at different fractals being oh, it's a 2008 crash is coming up, or another COVID, just flash crash is going to happen. I think if anything, we're going to get some choppy downside like we had in 2018. And then I think the Fed is going to step in, with some of the yield curve controls to try to save the bond market and save the rest of the market as well. But, that's my overall theory on it. But things are in flux. The market is always changing. So I say these things now, next week I could be on the complete opposite side of this and be nah, dude, we're headed to new all-time highs because whatever reason, whatever change in the market happens. I don't think that'll be the case, but an argument could be made that we just retested the 200-day moving average on SPY. We're bouncing off of it a little bit here. And perhaps we're looking at we just retested support and we're going to start rallying into the next bull market. We could go from here, we could skyrocket from here up to 600 or 700. But I think we need to test the weekly first, personally. I think the weekly around 380 is the target that I have set. Basically December, I'm thinking we get to 380 around December. So I bought some March puts, the 380 strike that I'm just going to hold and hope that we get around there into December. I'll take profits on them there. But yeah, short term bounce to 436, 440 range, and then I'll reassess and see if I'm convinced that we're headed into the next bull or if we're going back down to the 200 support here. But exciting times regardless. I've definitely found myself trading a lot more traditional stocks lately, though. I feel like crypto's just been such a game of musical chairs that I've had a hard time wanting to play it. It's just rotation after rotation, narrative after narrative. It gets exhausting. I'd rather just trade options on the stock market instead. So I've been trading coin a little bit, trading Riot quite a bit. One of my favorite trades I posted about on Twitter the other day, one of my favorite trades right now is long Riot, long coin, and then short Mara with a similar delta exposure overall. It's a pretty hedged trade. And in general, when crypto starts doing well, Riot and coin outperform Bitcoin by significant margins. You can see today Riot's up 4% with Bitcoin up 1%. It's got a beta of 4. Coin's right at a 1-to-1 beta right now, but it usually has pretty close to a beta of 3 or so. So when Bitcoin goes up 1%, coin is usually up close to 3. But Mara usually underperforms. Just yesterday, I think Mara was down 20%, whereas coin was down 6 and Riot was down 13 or something. So Mara puts were printing and making up for any losses that my longs on Riot and coin had. So that's my my hedged crypto beta play is long Riot, long coin, short Mara. But at some point, I'm kind of worried that Mara is going to start outperforming and fuck over my hedge trade. We'll see.
Man, that was a beautiful spiel, man. I want to speak on a few things. So, for me personally, I do think 32K is in the cards for BTC. And if we do go up there and like we treat that as resistance, I'm probably going to enter into some yield farming shorts on UniV3 so I can just kind of make passive income to sit in a limit order. It's kind of like what you're doing with options, damn near. It's kind of like the same thing. I don't trade options, but I know it has a lot of parallels. Only stock I'm buying right now is Coinbase. Like every time I get paid, I just DCA into Coinbase because I'm so bullish on Coinbase. I don't know if you saw, but the base chain surpassed Solana and TVL last week.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah, fastest layer 2 growth ever. And like with the Coinbase exchange and the Coinbase wallet and them growing internationally, like getting their roots everywhere, like that's going to be
$1,000 stock, dude.
$1,000 stock. $1,000
Absolutely.
stock for sure.
That's what I'm with you on that.
Yeah, and then to talk about the decoupling, man, like I know, like I think it's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years. You have your time frame on it, but I would say, and I'm sure you'd agree, like this is something that no one can predict because the growth is going to happen exponentially, and our brains aren't wired to quantify exponential growth, and that goes back to the example of like, if I ask you, would you rather have a penny doubled every day for 30 days or $1 million? Most people pick the $1 million, but a penny doubled every day is over $5 million.
Yeah.
Exponential growth exponential growth is tough. Like even if you look back to the horse and buggy, there was a time where people were building cars for a long time and nothing was happening. But then over 10 years, like right before the Great Depression, and that's kind of what caused it, people were financing cars. Then most households had cars, not even just the middle class. You can't really see a lot of changes until like a critical threshold is reached. And you can see anything in the world, like even ice. Like if ice is in a temperature, any 1 degree, 2 degrees, all the way up to 32 degrees, once it starts to get to 33 degrees, it starts to melt fast. And it's just a 1 degree difference because it's over freezing temperature. And that's kind of like the same thing we're seeing in crypto. Like you remember, or you probably don't remember, but I heard about it through like finance mentors that I have. Back in the .com boom, people were saying like, "Oh, I'm gonna start an internet hedge fund." Now, it's fucking weird because the internet has ate everything. Internet is like this splash of water that dropped onto the world, and it just kind of just like covered everything. So now people just say, "I'm a hedge fund," because every company has the internet at play in some way, shape, or form. Also, there was a time where like you looked at the S&P and most of the companies, it was only like a few internet companies on there. Most of them was like industrial companies and stuff like that. Then there was a period from like 5 or 10 years to where now all of the top companies on the S&P are internet based, right? I'm of the belief that crypto is at around probably like 28 degrees. Like we're going to start getting to that freezing temperature. Like you said, we have Fidelity, BlackRock, large financial institutions getting involved. And there's going to come a time where the top companies in the S&P are blockchain based, or even if they're like the Apples and the Teslas and the companies that now they're going to have some kind of blockchain aspect because, you know, that's just where things are going. So my advice to people would be like, this is the hardest thing in the world to predict, exponential growth in something. But what I would say is like, just look at the technology, decide on if you're bullish on it or not, which if you do any amount of research, you will be. And just let time do the heavy lifting. Don't try to time it, you know, because it's going to happen like before our eyes, and it's going to seem like it happened overnight. But the roots are being built, like, you know, Chinese bamboo tree. You got to water that motherfucker for 7 years before it even sprouts out the ground. Then it grows like 8 feet tall in like 90 days or something like that. That's exponential growth, and that's kind of what's happening with crypto. So I think that a decoupling is on the horizon as well. I have no idea when. I just know it's going to happen in the future, in the near future.
It'll happen like way quicker than anybody's expecting.
Way quicker. And then people will look back and they'll be like, "Oh, that makes sense." When it's just like, it makes sense now. You're not going to be able to time it, no matter what you say, who you are, and if someone tells you that, probably don't listen to them.
Exactly. It's one of those, you just got to park your money in it and chill, you know. You can actively trade it as much as you want, but you got to have that
you want to have a long-term bag.
Exactly.
I'm
with you. I think it's rapidly approaching. I think it'll happen before anybody is expecting it to happen to. Like it'll be what seems like an overnight shift, but like And you're going to have, I mean, just same as like when Bitcoin was at 69K and you had all these people being like, oh, man, why didn't I buy Bitcoin? How did I not see this coming? You know, it's going to be a much larger run than that. And it's going to be an even bigger slap in the face. You're going to have all these people who have like their wallets, like everything, their phone, the technology in their phone is going to be, you know, blockchain based. You're going to have some like, who knows exactly what it'll look like, but you'll have native wallets in your phone. That's like all your contacts are safe to your wallet. All your, you know, your messages, texting, everything's running through your wallet. All these kind of changes are going to happen. Your car is going to be hooked up to the blockchain in some way or another. Like when you're going on a toll road and the toll road is like you're paying the toll, that shit's going to be logged on a blockchain. Those transactions are going to be traceable, loggable on public chains. Banks are going to have all these blockchains where they're using it as their internal ledger. All this stuff will happen. It's just a matter of time. I like it already. I mean, when you do the research, you can see like a lot of these companies are already doing the digging around on these things to start to test some of these things internally. So I think it's coming. I think it's coming sooner than a lot of people think, and I think it's going to be a pretty wild bull run when it does happen. So I wouldn't want to be short going into that for fucking sure, and I definitely wouldn't want to be. I wouldn't want to have no exposure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, being short would be way worse. That's like,
absolutely. Yeah. I would not want to be
like
short.
The sun. That's like the sun coming outside and your ass is forced to go in the basement or something. That was suck. So man, let's talk a little bit about DeFi. Is there anything in DeFi that kind of has you excited? Any projects specifically? I know you're big in the options game and you have your startup that you're working on as well. Anything exciting you in DeFi right now?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, options have been the thing that's excited me the most. I've been looking at this like real world asset, the RWA narrative a little bit.
That has been a big one.
I think, like that's been kind of interesting too. Like I keep seeing people talking about like Cantos, like bringing the bond market on chain. And I've seen people talking about Maple Finance, and then there's I don't know if you saw there's like that project that just applied for a grant through Maker that's like a uranium based blockchain. Kind of interesting too. I'm definitely going to get a bag of that just because uranium is one of the trades that I'm like long-term bullish on. I think nuclear energy is going to be huge. I think we're getting ready for that paradigm shift here in the next 5 years, and uranium prices are going to fucking skyrocket. But
definitely let me know the name of that project. That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if they've announced the name yet. I've seen a few people on Twitter talking about it though. I need to do a little bit more digging so I can figure out how to get some exposure to it. Because uranium's another trade I'm in right now. I'm short and long uranium at the moment. I went short around 28 because I went long at like, I don't know, 20 around where we're at now. I think I went long here on 24 on this dip down like the pre-market. I went long around here and then took some profits at 28 and then went short just to hedge the rest of the exposure I have. I think that on the longer term time frames, we're right at the 200 on the 4 hour. We bounced off it pretty nicely. The daily, I think we still have some room to come down. It's like I'm short. My target for my shorts is 21. I'm hoping to take profits around 21, $22. But I've got plenty of longs that if we don't get down there, we head back up. It's like if you look at this chart on like the weekly, uranium prices were up at towards 100 back in 2010, 2011. And have just been like down only ever since, but they've been consolidating. We're like at it's been consolidating here since 2020, headed up. We've been consolidating over the past 2 years, just tested resistance at 28 again. It makes sense that we'd get a pullback here. I figure support around 23.50 to 21 in that range is kind of the buy zone for me. And then I honestly think we're headed to 70, $100 somewhere in here on like URA in the next like couple of years or so, which is a good, like 3-4x from here. So I've got some longs, some calls that are for like January 2025, got some calls out to there, and I've got some puts expiring in December because I think the pullback here will happen pretty quickly. And then, we'll get a bounce off of it and start chugging along, probably break this resistance at 30. And when the resistance at 30 breaks, I think we're headed to 50 pretty quickly. But that's so this uranium based blockchain has me interested because like I don't really know the details of it. I've not done any due diligence yet. I've just seen some people talk about it on Twitter. But like I think the uranium market is going to be huge, and like having this uranium backed token on chain that's used for transacting in a blockchain or something, like that sounds pretty bullish to me.
The narrative is going to be bullish, even if it's
not. Yeah, exactly. that's $100 million idea right there, regardless of whether or not the execution works. You know, it's one of those, like, it could be the shittiest blockchain in the world that nobody's building on, but the narrative can be strong enough to pump it. So I will absolutely be longing their uranium chain whenever it comes out.
Anything else exciting you in DeFi?
Let's see. I think some of the stablecoin stuff, that's kind of where I was going with the uranium thing, because I think they'll probably have some native stable that's backed by their uranium coin, if I had to guess. But like, I think some of the stablecoin developments are going to be pretty interesting. That's like the real world asset, like bringing bonds, the bond market on chain to start backing some stablecoins is an interesting play. That
like
the
Pendle
guys
Finance
are doing, and yeah, like Pendle and people like that. I think that makes a lot of sense, because that's kind of how the modern day dollar and stuff is backed, usually with like RWAs, bonds, things like that. So that stuff's been kind of interesting to me. But other than that, I haven't seen too much in DeFi that's gotten me super hyped yet. Just the options and the real world asset narratives are the main two things I've been kind of paying attention to these days, DeFi wise. And I think that there will be, at some point, I think there's going to be a clear winner in the true decentralized stablecoin space. And whoever that ends up being is going to be a massive play. I don't think that it exists yet, but I think in this next bull market, we'll probably have the true, like, decentralized stablecoin that is actually permissionless. It's actually unable to be censored. A true DeFi stable. I think that's coming in the next run. And whoever it ends up being, I'm very bullish on. So,
as much as I want that, that scares me a little bit, man. And I'll tell you why. And then I'll tell you like what I'm liking in DeFi. Do you know like the history of like greenbacks and how that whole thing was?
The greenbacks, like in the Great Depression and stuff. Is that when that was?
It was before that, actually. It was like in the 1800s, like
okay.
Pre-Federal Reserve. It's a good book called Money from Nothing: Why We Should Stop Worrying About Debt and Love the Federal Reserve. It's a really, really, really good book. Definitely recommend. But like back in the day, before like the dollar was the dollar, we had like these things called greenbacks. And basically each bank had their own version of the dollar. And it caused a lot of issues because people didn't know what to pay their taxes in. And it's kind of like the exact same thing that's happening in crypto right now. You have all these different stable coins that's supposed to represent a stable currency in the US dollar. And then eventually what happened is the Federal Reserve got created. The US dollar became legal tender. All those other currencies went away. And like, whether people like a currency or not, whatever is required to be paid in taxes, people are going to accumulate it hell and high water, happily or unhappily, because if they don't pay their taxes, they're going to go to jail. Right. And be taken away from their family. So while I do want it to be a decentralized version of a stable coin, I thought that was going to be DAI, but it seems like they kind of sold out in that regard.
Yeah.
My fear is that like once regulation kicks in, USDC or CBDC or maybe a mixture of both is going to be like, people are going to be like, oh, you can pay your taxes on it. They might make these other ones illegal. They might blacklist them. So that's kind of my fear. So I just want to see how that shakes out, because like the only reference I have to that is the greenbacks, and now that same thing's playing out in crypto, and this kind of thing's never happened other than that. So I'm just like, is this one of those things where history is going to rhyme, or is this one of those things where it's not? I have no idea.
Yeah,
like I don't touch other stable coins.
One of those, like, I wouldn't be surprised like if it's one of those history kind of rhymes things. The US government's probably going to panic about it, as we've seen them doing for the past couple of years here with the crypto stuff. I think they'll try to fight against it, but like at the end of the day, personally, I'm a DeFi maxi. I'm a decentralization maximalist. I think that I think we'll win. I think we'll win out in the end. I think there will come. But like the mechanism design is going to be extremely important for whatever this decentralized stable ends up being, right? Like we can't have another Luna style.
It can't just be backed with the dollar either.
Yeah, exactly. Right, exactly.
Easy to like,
yeah,
it needs to be a basket. It needs to be a basket of different assets. Yeah. I would say foreign assets as well, so that the US can be like, well, if we don't adopt it, these other countries will. Kind of like Bitcoin.
Right.
Like all these countries hate Bitcoin, but the only reason why they're adopting it is because it's game theory baked in, and they know that this is like the first asset that can move across borders. And if they don't allow it in their country, it's going to be allowed somewhere else. So the only way to kill Bitcoin is for all these countries to come together, and that's never happened in the history of the world, and probably will never happen.
That's one of the things I really liked about like Rye too. You know, like I don't know if you're familiar with Rye, but like the kind of the floating peg stable coin using rates to kind of stabilize it, bring it back to earth. I've always thought that Rye was like a pretty interesting approach to a decentralized stable coin. And I think they're probably one of the few people that's like closest to what this like final model is going to look like. But to your point, I don't think that Ethereum is necessarily the right coin to back this stable. Like it's got to probably be a basket of assets. And I honestly think Bitcoin has to be included in there, because I think Bitcoin is
Bitcoin's going to be the supreme
gold.
collateral. It's going to be the supreme collateral of the internet.
Yeah, I think so too. I know all the Ethereum maxis probably hate that we're saying that, but like, you know, I think it's I think it makes sense that the digital golds, the Bitcoin, the more volatility dampened coin like that is going to be the one that's primarily used as the collateral versus Ethereum, which is like the world computer. That's like the way I look at it is like, I wouldn't want my dollars backed by the internet. I would prefer that my dollars are backed by gold or by a rare earth metal or something like that has this value that I know is going to hold over time with demand. But I would prefer that it has a supply that's not always increasing. Like, oh, we found another gold deposit here. Like now the value of gold has just decreased. With Bitcoin, that'll never happen.
And it's a bunch of paper gold. You can't sync up gold with all these mobile apps that we have, so we don't know like the paper gold ratio to the actual gold.
Right,
gold is kind of fucked, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the gold trade is dead. Honestly, I think that
this is the perfect conditions for gold in this consolidating.
Yeah, and it's I wouldn't be surprised.
It's like Michael Jordan missing constant shots.
Yeah. Let's pull up the chart while we're talking about it. We might as well. Let's take a look at the gold chart here. It's got a nice little run today, I guess. But like, man, look at this shit. Like this is when gold was supposed to be winning, right? This is like over the past month or so just the past year or so as inflation's been getting way out of hand. You would think that gold would have been the play, and it has been consolidating and breaking down and does not I mean, this probably, as I'm saying this, like, that's probably a good time to go long here at support. But like, if we fucking lose this 200 MA here, like, I think we're headed down pretty bad. Like, we're rejecting, like, this was like when we almost hit new all-time highs just this year, like 3 different times. We rejected all 3 times, and now like this is probably going to be a pretty fierce rejection here if we can't hold support. So I personally, I'm not long gold right now. Maybe I should be, as we're like sitting here bashing on gold. Maybe this is a bottom signal. Who knows? But I probably won't take up a position, even though I'm saying this. But I don't know, man. I think that it'll be like digital assets, things like Bitcoin, that are going to be the inflation hedge play and the future currency of the world backed play. Because I personally don't think that Bitcoin I don't think Bitcoin itself will be that currency that people are exchanging. I know a lot of people kind of say that you have like nation states accumulating Bitcoin. But like, do you really
a store value, not a currency?
Yeah, right. And like, do you think that these countries are?
I wish they called it crypto assets, not cryptocurrencies. I feel like it lends itself to a tragic misnomer.
Yeah, I like if we look at these, the way that currencies have played out over the past hundreds of years or whatever. Like gold-backed dollars. Did these countries that had all these gold reserves, did they just use gold as their currency and hand it out to people? No, they issued a currency against it. People aren't going to be giving out Bitcoin to use as a currency. In my opinion, they're going to issue something against the Bitcoin reserves that they hold, and it'll be verifiable, provable on chain that they have the Bitcoin to back this currency that like helps keep the inflation in check and things like that.
And they won't be able to issue an executive order to and devalue the price if they own it all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to kind of see how it plays out. But yeah, I think the decentralized stablecoin stuff is going to be that'll be another big narrative in the next run. And I think that we'll actually solve it in this next over the next 5 years or so. I think it'll probably actually get solved. It's more likely going to be, just like in the world, we have all these different currencies. But back in the day, they were all pretty much backed by gold. So you had all these different currencies, but you had this underlying medium of exchange that you knew, like this dollar is worth this much in gold. The rupee, like all these other coins, you knew how much they were worth. And I think that we'll slowly be merging into a similar approach like that, but all backed by Bitcoin, where you have like currencies issued against Bitcoin reserves that these nation states have accumulated over time. And there's going to be all these different currencies. There's not going to be one digital dollar that wins out, but there's going to be a bunch of digital dollars that are, used by large nation states, things like that. I wouldn't be surprised if Ecuador issues a like stable coin against their Bitcoin reserves at some point that they start using as like their currency as well. But we'll see. Maybe I wear my tinfoil hat too hard and my theories are a little too out there. I don't know. But I think we're headed into the crypto future right now, and I think that everything is going to have a little bit of crypto sprinkled in there, whether people see it or not.
You got me thinking, bro. Actually, like, I feel like the Federal Reserve is trying to get this CBDC going. And when I hear you say, like, you think that multiple dollars are going to win out, I can see that making sense, because I was of the camp of it's probably just going to be one, like how it's like $1. But I know their goal is to not just control inflation, but to control the velocity of money. Right. And like the rate at which and the volume at which things are spent at. So like they could they can put everything in one wallet, and they can make it so that, like, and this part sucks, but I'm pretty sure they're going to do something like, oh, here's like, if they have to give out stimulus, like, oh, you have this amount of time to spend this money or it's gone. So they can force economic stimulation. But not only that, like, what if they do something like where they have a currency for food, they have a currency for like cars, like different currencies for different things. Obviously, they'll be like easily interchangeable within this mobile wallet that you have. I can see that making sense, because that would give them the most control.
Yeah, so, right.
And I never thought about that until now.
Yeah, I think it's it'll be some form of like multi-currency system, but that the backing that it's issued against will be most likely Bitcoin, or like a basket of crypto assets that's like, I don't know, 75% Bitcoin, 25% ETH, or 50% Bitcoin, 25% ETH, 25% something else, or whatever the mix might end up being. But I do think that Bitcoin will probably be the largest backing asset held inside this basket that currencies are being issued against.
Yeah, I think so too.
But yeah, that's kind of that's one of the things in DeFi that I think is interesting. Like if I ever get a really good idea on what a mechanism I think should be for stable coins, which like I haven't really ever sat down and tried to think one up before. If I ever get an idea for one, I'll let you know and we'll run it back.
Yeah, no, for sure. So like one more thing I want to talk about, like the most exciting thing I'm excited about in DeFi, and I think I've been talking to everybody about this, is Radix, man. Have you heard of Radix or looked into them at all?
I looked at it a couple times after you mentioned it a couple times, but I currently don't have a bag or anything. But I've seen a couple of your posts on Twitter a couple times. But what are they working on now that's like got you so bullish?
So they just launched their Babylon mainnet. So now smart contracts are live on Radix. So pretty much the blockchain is turned on. They got a lot of press, which isn't super important, but I'm super bullish on DeFi going mainstream. But I feel like bro, if you look at technology, Facebook wasn't the first social network, and I've been watching a lot of like Paul Graham and like Y Combinator, like how to start a startup, just going back through those. Anyone's trying to start a startup, I definitely recommend going through those videos. But Peter Thiel was talking about how like it's not about being first, it's about being last. And that's what Facebook was. They were like one of the last social networks. And you could say Instagram, but they bought them. They tried to buy everyone else. So it's like, so now when I look at that through the eyes of crypto, I don't think Ethereum is going to be where DeFi goes mainstream. And the reason being is because the EVM is too inefficient, man. Coding and Solidity, you talk to developers, they spend 10% of their time coding and 90% of their time auditing the code to make sure it's secure. And even like you saw what happened with Curve, bro. How many smart contract audits have Curve's gone through? Fucking probably 5 to 10, and they still had that Viper hack. So it's like, bro, institutions see that they're not going to put billions of dollars on Ethereum. And the reason why is because Solidity treats everything as a smart contract. they treat everything as a smart contract. And whenever you treat everything as a smart contract and you have a smart contract that's having to communicate with another one, it's almost like bridging. There is a chance for a vulnerability to happen. And that's why those hacks happen. But Radix, they have what's called an asset-oriented smart contract programming language where they put assets in buckets. And it's not all about smart contracts interacting with other smart contracts. All right, so if you go, like they have multiple white papers, but if you go to their DeFi white paper, and I've made like extensive videos on all this stuff. So this is Uniswap built on Radix, man. And look at how like wonky that is. Like no matter what happens, it's a smart contract having to interact with another smart contract. Or this is what Uniswap looks like on Radix. That's a world of difference. And then not only that, bro, but like this is also Uniswap written on Ethereum versus Radix. Dude, it's 179 lines of code versus 750 lines of code. So the coding is more efficient. It's safer. They have what's called like developer royalties, so that like say you're building your options platform. Let's say you built it on Radix and you built the standard for fucking options, and people start forking your code. Were you gonna get a royalty on a per transaction basis? So that's gonna inspire like a lot of healthy competition, because they're gonna make sure that the best code is being built, and they're building their chain specifically for DeFi. Ethereum is like this everything chain where you got NFTs and DeFi and like all this shit on there. And I'm really bullish on like application specific chains, and that's a part of the reason why I like Cosmos. It just sucks that the Atom token doesn't accrue value other than narrative if Cosmos does well. So yeah, man, like I think like with how Radix, how Solidity, or not Solidity, how Scripto, their programming language is, I can see a lot of institutions wanting to build on there. Like obviously we have to get some traction. Like they have this mobile wallet to where you can do DeFi on mobile, and you can't do that on MetaMask and iPhones because you get fucking hacked. Like, bro, they're checking all my boxes, man. I've been following them for years.
Yeah.
And they've been building this thing for like 10 years, and they finally just turned on their blockchain.
Is XRD? Is that can I buy this on Ethereum? Is this?
Yeah, you have
XRD.
Yeah. You have EXRD, and actually, I'll show you my. This is currently the only liquidity pool that I'm in right now.
Yeah, I'm interested in. I know people say the alt L1 play is dead. There's never going to be another alt L1 worth getting into, and that Ethereum or Solana or AVAX or one of these chains, Radix, whatever one is going to win. But personally, I think that more than likely the chain of the future that everything is settling on and all these things like either hasn't been built yet or is like currently being built and like going live. Like, you know, like you're saying, Radix just went live. Like I haven't done too much due diligence on it. Maybe Radix is that chain. But no, I personally, I'm one of those people that's like, you know, like I don't think that the chain of the future has been widely adopted yet. I don't think Ethereum is going to be it. Nor do I think Bitcoin is. I don't think smart contracts on Bitcoin are going to be it either. I think there's going to be some really
people here in San Francisco.
Yeah, right. Tell that to people pretty much anywhere in the crypto space. But I think somebody was a Chainlink or not? Was it fucking what was his? Was it Spartan? Was he the one that tweeted? I feel like just the other day, one of those big accounts had just tweeted about how they were like, yeah, I don't think that the future chain that everybody's going to use has been built yet either. And he got like a lot of hate for it. I can't remember if that was Spartan or if that was maybe it was Lawrence or somebody. It was somebody I follow. I was surprised to see one of those big accounts saying that. But yeah, all the Ethereum maxis get all up in arms about it. It's like, it's probably just true. Ethereum's pretty clunky. Like, let's be honest. It's not a great user experience. The UX is shitty as fuck. Honestly, I think it'll more than likely be a layer 0 type thing that wins out in the end. It'll be some like totally cross-chain, integrated with all the things, some sort of aggregator. It settles on whatever chains. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but I think it'll be a seamless interaction where it's like integrated with a bunch of different chains and probably has its own chain settlement layer as well or something. I think it'll be some sort of thing like that wins out in the end, where like it abstracts away all of the bullshit that we have to deal with today, and you just are interacting with. You don't even
know you're interacting with
exactly.
it.
Yeah. And you may not even know which chain it is. Like it could be a bunch of different chains. You could be interacting with a shit ton of different chains and you don't even know. And it's all been abstracted away. And I think that's more than likely like the multi-chain future is here to stay. And I don't think that the one chain that wins out in the end is going to be one chain itself. I think it'll be a chain that's probably integrated and settling with like all the chains, some sort of aggregator type chain. I don't know exactly what that looks like. I don't know. I'm not a developer, so that's not something I can get into. But that's what I personally think it'll be, some sort of amalgamation of a bunch of chains or something, you know. But we'll see. See what happens in the end. But yeah, you're chilling me pretty good on Radix. I might have to get myself a little bag. Chart looks pretty decent, consolidating here too.
Bro, and so this is a pool with EXRD, which is Ethereum wrapped Radix. And that's another thing about Radix, bro. They have a one-way bridge. So it's to get onto the Radix mainnet, unless you have like a Bittrex or BitMEX account, or you can go on CoinGecko and see the sexes that you can bridge back and forth over. But decentralized, in terms of like decentralized bridges, there isn't one yet. And as you know, that keeps a lot of people away. Like, bro, I have a little bag of like Aussie Swap and Caviar Swap, which are like the top dexes on Radix. And you know, dexes on new chains pump big, bro. These dexes are $2 and $3 million market caps, bro. Like,
oh, wow.
The top dexes on any chain, even right now in the bear market, you got Trader Joe at 80 million, you got Uniswap at 3 billion. Like, you have a lot of chains at 100 million in the bear market.
Right.
So, like, bro, I think Radix has a lot of room to grow. Not only that, and I made a video on this too, their tokenomics are fucking fantastic. They didn't take on any VC capital, so there isn't any major unlocks.
Oh, nice.
All of the tokens are unlocked. So, and that's the reason why, like, bro, I've been in this pool for, as you can see here, 545 days, bro, almost 2 years. And it hasn't went out of range once. I've made $13,000, right?
Nice.
And it's just been printing between 40 to 60% APR like the whole time I've been in the pool, bro. And I'm not like, bro, like when I set limit orders nowadays, I don't even set regular limit orders. I'll enter into a Uni V3 position. And with Aperture Finance, I made a video on them too. They help you like automate, or not automate it. It's like a hybrid to managing your Uni V3 pools. Like, you can rebalance with one click and do a bunch of cool shit. But like, bro, I'm not exiting this pool until it goes out of range to the upside, and I'm taking profits in ETH. And like, bro, I think this is like a easy 10 to 20x here in the bear market, but 100x in the bull market for sure.
Yeah, I could see it. I mean, shit, it was trading at like 70 cents just back in the last bull market. So, and you're saying the chain wasn't even live back then? So
yeah, bro, they just turned on their smart contracts. And that's another thing, bro. February of last year, they had like 120 something developers. Now they have over 15,000 developers building on the chain.
Wow, that's crazy.
So, yeah, man.
Huh.
It's looking pretty good.
I'm checking out the chart. I'm kind of liking this consolidation here. And if it's holding this 5-cent support a little longer, might have to start accumulating a little bag here. Looks like could have a nice little run soon. So yeah, I'm gonna definitely have to keep an eye on this. It's interesting. Because yeah, like I said, I think the Alt L1 play, I think, is probably going to be another big one coming into this next bull run, and I don't want to miss out on that. So yeah,
agreed. Yeah, I think this one will be big. Well, shit, man, this was a great fucking talk, bro. I appreciate you coming on. I feel like people are going to get a lot of value from this. Shit, let's hop on again in like 2 or 3 weeks, see where we're at.
Absolutely, and, yeah.
See if anything changed, man.
Yeah.
How do people find you? Or Twitter, YouTube? Where you at? What's your
Twitter? Yeah, primarily Twitter. I got a friend tech, I guess, but like I primarily these days I shit post quite a bit on Twitter. I don't do too much of my like charting there. All my charting stuff I've actually moved over to friend tech. I don't have a bunch of holders. My fucking keys are worth like 0.01. And I hold most of the keys. So like I think there's like maybe like 5 people total that are like in my friend tech. But like, if I get, it's better than like I had a Discord for a while that I was posting my trades in, and then FriendTech came out, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna migrate my stuff over to this instead. So like, I mean, I don't think a lot of the people in my Discord, like a few of them bought keys and are like over there now. So I do most of my like trade talk and I was posting about my shorts on SPY and stuff, mostly in FriendTech, posting my charts and stuff there. But yeah, Twitter is kind of the spot where I'm at the most. So my Shaman Voideth, or SV, is kind of what my username is, just SV now. So
Sounds good. I'll make sure I post that here on the video so people can give you a follow, man.
Yeah, sounds good. Awesome. Well, it's been great chatting. This was a great talk. It was a good one. We definitely got to do it again.
Definitely, man. Hey, good luck with everything, bro, and we'll be talking soon.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Have a good one.
All right, man. You too. Peace out.
Peace.